y'all. Welcome back to another edition of Storytime. Now, as you know, Storytime is open for any and everyone to come into their story when they want to. And there is no premise on what type of story you come and tell me. But today is a little more serious. So in the chat, in the replay, I only thing I ask for over here in the galaxy, as you already know. But for the newcomers, all I ask is respect, okay? Some people may not be comfortable with telling their story. Some people may be, but whoever comes and tell their story, they deserve respect and dignity. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on up for today. Who is it? Hey.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. You know, we talked a little bit about behind the scenes. I had saw a post that you made that was kind of telling a little bit about your story, and I actually reached out to you because I feel that your story could touch a lot of people. It could help a lot of people. So I'm just excited to have you here, and I'm just going to give you the floor. I may ask some questions, you know, here and there, but I kind of like want to give you the floor to be open as much as you want to be.
Oh, perfect. I'm here to tell my story. I am a domestic violence survivor. I stand on that. I'm never anybody's victim because I'm here today. So I stood strong in my truth and I escaped that. So that's one thing that I always stand on. And I tell anybody who has gone through anything similar or what I've gone through is we are survivors. We're not anybody victims because we're still here today. You'll be surprised how many people didn't make it. And in my story was a 15-year ordeal. So I met my abuser when I was 21 years old. And I always start with my childhood because I was a sheltered teen. Like my parents were strict. They made sure that we were busy. We couldn't get into certain things. But with that came lack of experience. So by the time I hit adulthood, graduated from college, I was clueless to what this world and what it had to offer. And unfortunately, my abuser was one of the first things that I came in contact with. And as a 21-year-old female, I didn't know anything about what a man was, but immediately he started to wine and dine me. He started to show me things that as a young lady I had no clue to, but I thought that was the definition of a man. So one thing that I do stand on and I tell any woman that has dealt with it or is their abuser showing red flags is it doesn't happen right away. Like it doesn't start with that. The first thing that they do is they try to grab that heart. And then once they get that heart, they grab that mind. And once they have the heart and the mind, they have everything that they need. Because at that point, they feel like they have that hold on you. So that's when the physical starts. That's when the emotional starts. That's when all of it starts. And then you find yourself asking, who am I? You know what I'm saying? Because you've lost yourself. You stuck. You feeling like, oh my God. You know, so I always tell people, pay attention to the red flags, you know, because they were there. I mean, they were there clear as day. But again, with my inexperience, I missed it.
So let me stop you right there for just 1 second. That you are totally right when it comes to that. As you guys know, over here on this channel, I tell y'all, my daddy was a pastor. Both of my grandfathers was pastors, both sides. So I lived a very sheltered life. So do you feel that? I know I feel this way, but I want to know what you think. That abusers, that like we stand out to them.
Yes, because I met my abuser in school. And I can tell you that I was so low key and I didn't bother nobody. I was in school to do what I needed to do. But he caught my attention before I caught his attention. And I just remember going home and telling my sister, you know, like I see this dude and I'm gonna do my makeup, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get his attention. And once I grabbed his attention, out of everybody you can imagine, you know, all the way, it was like something clicked and he knew. And from that moment forward, it was all she wrote.
Okay, 1 second. I'm sorry, this is important. I don't want no distraction.
You okay? Mine is the same. I understand.
Oh my God.
I
Okay,
understand.
so I totally agree with that. About the red flags. I want to ask you, just for some, because I feel like a lot of times in situations like this, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what happened, I feel that a lot of people don't take this serious because they expect us as females to know these red flags, and all the time you don't. So, what were some of the red flags that you saw?
The control factor. Like it was immediate control over me, but he didn't respect how I felt. It's like my feelings didn't matter. And he would do little things to try to test to see how far he could get, and if he was able to do one thing each time, it got a little bit worse. A little bit worse. And I should have saw that. And another red flag was how he treated his mother. Like he was so disrespectful to his mother. But again, I had no idea, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't see that. So that wasn't a red flag to me that this man got issues until later on down the road, that if he can treat his mom like that, if he don't respect his mom. But it took me understanding he had those mommy issues before that clicked. And just how I didn't like the infidelity and how I would find out about other females, and it would just be blatant stuff in my face. And then it would be like, well, I'm coming home to you, or I didn't say anything to him. Like it was like he was trying to test me to see how far he could get each time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
So
already getting chills.
yeah, and I mean, if you can understand me at 21, clueless to the world and all of that, I mean, I met him in school, and within 2 months, because I had no idea I had moved in with this man. And another thing that I always tell people is another thing that they're gonna do after they get their heart and their mind, they're gonna alienate you. They're gonna do everything that they can to alienate you away from the people who mean the most to you, your friends, the people that they don't care about you. So within 2 months, I had moved in with this man, and he had moved me 45 minutes away from where my family was. So it wasn't easy for me to have that access when stuff went left. He knew
Right.
it wasn't going to be easy for me to just jump in my car and go. Hanging out with my friends became too much. Like, why are you doing it? You need to be here with me. Me being close with my family, it was, you need to lead a nest. Like just abnormal things like that. But me being inexperienced, I was like, okay, well, my parents tell me the ultimate goal is for me to get my career and hit the ground running. He had this work. So when he would say things like that, I'd be like, well, maybe he's right. But not knowing that he didn't have good intentions behind that.
Right.
Yep. So just be careful with the alienation. That's the first thing that they're going to do. They're going to try to alienate you from your friends. And it actually was like that. And it got to where my friends would get upset with me. And they'd be like, oh, okay, well, you just let him control you. And I looked at it like, I'm in a relationship and we're young, and I looked at it like they just jealous,
And girl, you
because they
hating
don't
on
have
me.
no man that care about them. Like it was just so many things that I look back on now that I realized, girl, you were so naive. Your
Yeah.
friends saw it and they were actually trying to save you from it, but you didn't see it the way that they saw it. So,
So
I'm
let
just
me ask
glad.
you a question.
Mm-hmm.
With you being in a strict household, and I'm speaking from personal experience to just see if it was the same kind of situation, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can relate to the friend thing. Do you think that when you are sheltered like that, you are oblivious to the red flags? Because
Yes.
number one, of course, you don't know them. But number two, you like, let me live my life.
Yes.
You think you
Yes.
live a life.
Yes, because you always been looking for that freedom. Like you've been sheltered your whole life. You've been, on that same path where you didn't have that freedom. And one thing about us being sheltered, like I was saying, is you need to, it's like preparing us for adulthood. So I felt like, okay, but this is what you've been preparing me for, all this time, not realizing, again, like I say, his intentions weren't good,
Right.
and yes, you're definitely oblivious to it. Definitely oblivious to it.
So when did it start going downhill for you? Like, of course, the controlling is going downhill,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean that's still like situational. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When did it start getting bad?
So I would say probably within 6 months
Oh,
of the
fast.
relationship. Yeah, it was quick. It was definitely quick because, like I told you, we moved in at 2 months.
Okay.
So by 6 months, that's when like the verbal and the emotional abuse started. And again, I didn't know what that was. Like
Right.
I didn't see that from my parents. My parents had been married for almost 20 something years. So I didn't see that. I didn't know what that was. So
Right.
the verbal and all of that started. And I guess once he figured out, okay, well, I got this, she let me do this, then that's when the physical started. But at that point, I was alienated from my family. By the time I realized that it wasn't healthy, I was madly in love with this man. And then it was kind of like, you gotta hide it from the world. So it became, you can't let nobody see what's really going on type thing, because I was just so into it. I was so stuck, and I'm like, he wouldn't be doing this if he didn't love me type thing.
Right.
That being naive. So it definitely started early.
So when it got bad it's it's already rocky, it's getting bad. How are you feeling? Are you like, I can love him out of this, or
Yeah. Yes. Well, I don't think it was I could love him out of this, because I was so naive to what a relationship was. Even with seeing my parents, you always hear no relationship is perfect.
right?
I just figured this is just what, the cards are being dealt for me. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of was like, I'm going to stick it out, because I didn't know what else to do. And at this point I felt like, it was me and him, and we was riding together. And I felt like if I left, then I would have to explain why. Then everybody would know the truth about what I was going through and what was really going on.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So, I mean, it got to where he was so controlling. My job was too far away. So I got fired from my job, like just different things like that. It was just, we had to be together 24/7. He had to have that hold on me. But when he wanted his freedom, he was free to go and do whatever he wanted. But it looked different for me. I wasn't allowed to do so.
So you say you met him at school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you guys in the same age? Like, of course you are close in age, but is he like older?
Yeah, so he is actually 1 year older than me.
Okay.
He's 1 year older than me. So we're kind of close in age. We're definitely kind of close in age. So he wasn't too much older than me.
So what was the breaking point? What was the last straw like? What was that like?
So the last straw for me is understanding that I started with this man when I was 21 years old. I'm 38 years old. So this was 15 years down the line that I had been going through this. And it was the back and forth, the in and out, the separation, and all of that. And I just kind of got to the point where I was like, you deserve more than this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't deserve this. And we actually separated for almost 2 years. And during that 2 year time period, I learned who I was as a person. I was able to do the work for myself, figure out who I was, get that old person back that I was. And it showed me that I could set boundaries. I could do this and that. So when he came back, and the crazy thing was, he wasn't really worried about me until he knew somebody else was in my life. Like if he felt like there was any type of threat or anybody else that could take his place, then it was, I'm willing to do everything that I can. So I was actually dating somebody, having kids. These nosy kids.
So wait a minute. So hold on. So the guy you're telling me about, I don't want to call him the abuser, but
he is an abuser. That is exactly what he is.
Well, you know what? Maybe we should stop sugarcoating shit.
I mean, yeah, I feel like this, and my story will lead up to a lot more. Until he proves otherwise, he's an abuser.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna call him, because I'm all for not holding hands.
Absolutely.
So the abuser, you didn't have kids with him.
I did. So actually, my kids came along 5 years down the line. Okay. And I was actually told at 19 I could never have kids. That played another part in why I felt like we were meant to be together. I was told I could never have kids. I had a dog, And then we would try, and it would happen. And then once my kids came along, it was kind of like,
now
okay,
I have to stay.
exactly. He gave me these babies, you know. And then I have twins, by the way.
Oh,
Twins.
so
So
that's like miracle on top of miracle.
Exactly. I have a girl and a boy twin. So I'm looking at it like the Lord blessed me with a girl and a boy in one shot. You know, no fertility, no nothing. When the doctors was telling me that I could never have them. So I just felt like, you know what I'm saying? Like this man was meant to be in my life. So the kids came along, and that was another thing that kind of opened my eyes, was because as long as when I was pregnant, there was no physical abuse. No physical abuse. There was the mental, there was the verbal, but there was no physical. So that showed me this man can control it if he wanted to. You know, like he can control it if he wanted to. And it was like almost immediately. I think my kids were 2 months old before the physical started back again. Now, one thing I can say is it got better. It wasn't as bad as it was before I had the kids, but I think it got to the point where he was kind of trying to hold it in because he felt like the kids would see it. But you are who you are until you get the help to change who you are. So, you know, as the kids got older, the abuse got worse. I mean, it kind of got back to where it was. So yes, we do have children together. We have our set of twins. And sadly, the abuse ended up trickling over to my kids. So that's something that I don't like. That's why I say until he shows me otherwise, he's an abuser. So yeah, we do have kids.
So let me ask you this, and you can be as candid as you want, and you can protect as much as you want because that's the most important thing to me.
Absolutely.
But as when you say abuse and physical, like what were some of the things that were happening?
So there would be times where I say he would snap. So if I didn't do something that he wanted me to do, it would instantly be an argument, and then the argument will always turn into him snapping and doing something to hurt me. Like I've had my hand broken, I've had black eyes, I've had cuts where he's thrown stuff at me. The most recent, he flipped the bed with me in it. Like, I mean, so many different things. He dropped the TV. I was trying to leave and move out, and I had a TV, and he took the TV and just threw it down. And it ended up falling on the back of my foot because I tried to run and slice my foot open. Like, I mean, you would never imagine. And the most recent is like he actually, that's why I say he's an abuser until he shows me otherwise. He has pending charges because he assaulted my daughter, which is his flesh and blood.
Oh my God.
His flesh and blood.
So let are your parents still living?
My parents are living. Yes, they are.
So going through this, you know, because I'm sure when the doctor told you that you couldn't have kids, did you share that with your parents?
Yes, my mom knew because I learned at an early age because I had something called endometriosis. So I'd always had like these awful periods that I would get deathly ill with. And it got to the point where it was starting to affect in school. I would be getting truancy and all of that. So my mom was with me when I found out that I possibly could not have kids. So she knew that from the jump. They've always been aware of that.
Okay. So I asked you that because at that point, once you had your twins, they probably were overjoyed for the grandkids.
They definitely were. Not well, let me correct that. They weren't because, like I said, they were my blessing, but they didn't know my situation, but they did. So
and that's what I'm leading up to.
The fact
how was they feeling? Yeah.
Yes. Who they knew it was by, they weren't happy. But of course they were happy because it was a blessing. You know, like it was something that I wasn't supposed to have. It was just kind of like, we wish you would have made a better decision on who it was.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. How was he with your father?
With my father, he wasn't really close to any of my family but my mother. Okay. And now that I know his situation with his mother, it was kind of like he was looking for something that he didn't have at home. He had mommy issues. But as far as the males in my family, he stayed away from them. I think low key, he knew, you know, like how messed up he was. So he knew those are my protectors. So he didn't really work on building relationships with them. He worked on who he thought was like the rock of our family, which was my mom. But one thing that I can say about my mom and I'm grateful for is my mom she don't sugarcoat nothing. If you right, you right. You wrong, you wrong. And if I was wrong, I was wrong. And if he was wrong, he was wrong. So, that's one thing that I can say.
And I just want to take a second to say to anybody watching, females, this is for you. If you don't have a male figure in your life, if you can't introduce that guy to the men in your life that care about you, you need to slow down, because I totally agree with you. We know who to bring around dad. You know what I mean? And like I said, because I know the world is such a crazy place with all different type of combinations of families and stuff like that. If you don't have a father, your grandfather, uncle, best friend, cousin, somebody, a male that loves you, need to meet the guy you messing with. That's just how I feel.
Yep. And my dad, I love my dad. My dad has been the best father that I could ever imagine. But one thing that I can say about him that my abuser didn't know is my dad was also a victim of abuse in his childhood. So that's something that he really, he's not a conflict type person at all. We didn't even really get spankings and stuff from him. And I feel like once my abuser found that out, he took advantage of that, because he looked at it like, her daddy not gonna do nothing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not that, you know what I'm saying? Like, Tay, how do you take advantage of somebody's vulnerability like that? But that's exactly what they do. And that's exactly what they look for.
And it's just, it just always boggles me. It befuddles me.
Yep.
That these men have so much energy for a female and none for a man.
None whatsoever. And we've been in instances to where, my mom, we were raised in the hood. Like, we was raised in the hood, but my mom and my parents always told us we never have to be a product of our environment.
Exactly.
So they've always raised us to want more for ourselves. But I was raised in the hood. And I can remember instances where we would be in situations to where I'm hyped and I'm trying to, with a dude and this dude over here. And I'll be like, but again, it still never dawned on me. You know what I'm saying? Even going through our situation, okay, he got that energy for a female, but not for a male. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can put his hands on me, but when it's time for him to be our protector, he can't do that.
Yeah. So, ladies, we giving these red flags. Be paying attention during this conversation. Absolutely. Because it looks different a lot of times, but the categories be the same.
Yes. And one thing that I can tell you is I feel like these men have like a little radar. It's crazy. It's like they have this little radar and it's like, ding, 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 ding. That's the one. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's absolutely insane. And that's like some things that I had to step back, because one thing that I have learned is I got to take some accountability. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because after that first time, it shouldn't have been a second time. After that second time, it shouldn't have been a third time. And that's one of the hardest things that I could do, but that's like one of the best things that I could do. Is yes, I can say I had an abuser, but I have to say I allowed him to do it to me. It took me 15 years to leave. So that's why I tell my story, because I want people to understand, don't let it take you 15 years to recognize that. Don't let it take you 1 year to recognize that. Just know that you always deserve better. And for them to be doing what they're doing to you, they see that in you. They want you to be weak. They want you to lose yourself, because there was something that was that spark in you that drew them to you. So just understand that it never makes you weak. You are not weak. None of that. It was something about you that they felt like they had to come into your life and try to conquer. So just stand strong on it. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. But you can do it. You can do it. And it's a healing process. I tell people all the time, you have to wear your scars proudly, because when you go through domestic violence and you go through trauma, that's something you'll never forget. Like, living with PTSD is never going to go away. But one thing that I do is I understand I got a scar, it's healed, but it's going to always be there. So just stand proud. wear your scars proudly and just look at it like, I survived, I made it through that. And there's no new scars on me. I'm going to wear these ones that I have proudly, and I'm going to move on.
So before we get into that, I want to go back just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You said one reason that kept you for a long time was you didn't want to have to explain why it didn't work. Mm-hmm. I want to ask, was another reason the fear of starting over? Because I know a lot of women, you know, they don't leave because, you know, especially 15 years, that's a long time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So were you afraid of starting over?
I was, and that was because I had lost myself. And I figured, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's going to want me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got all this baggage. I knew I was going to have healing to do. And then it got to where I felt like, how can I trust somebody else? You know what I'm saying? How do I know? Because I wasn't able to vet this man. I wasn't able to see it. So how do I know the next one isn't going to come along and be the exact same way? And not to mention, too, my children. Like, my children played a major role in that because I had my dad in my home with me my whole life. So it's like, you always want better for your kids. So it's like, why would I do that to them? Not knowing that, in all honesty, it was damaging them just as much as it was damaging me.
Yeah. So when you say scars, kind of walk us down that, because I know you mean, I know it's more than physical. I know there's emotional scars. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit? Because the reason why I'm asking you is because I feel, and you can chime in on how you feel about it, but I feel like within our community, we don't really acknowledge emotions.
No.
Other than horny and angry.
Yep. And mental health is not important to us. And I always tell people, just because what we go through as being Black people, we feel like we have to always be strong. You know what I'm saying? So what I mean by scars is I completely lost myself. I was a confident person. I was successful. You know, I had gotten my degree and all of that, but I couldn't even look myself in the mirror and say I was proud of myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror and say, you were beautiful. I couldn't look myself in the mirror and say, keep going. Like, I just felt like I was nobody. And then now too, I say, I struggle with red flags now. So if you remind me a little bit of that man, it's an automatic no-go for me. So those are scars that I wear that I have to say, I can't be treating everybody like they are him. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's what I mean by scars, is I have things that I have to learn to overlook. I still have some work to do on myself, even though I feel like I'm healed. But from the emotional to the physical to just whatever, I just feel like it's going to always be there. It's never going to go away. I'm going to always have those reminders. When I see a scar, or like I said, when I see a red flag or anything like that, it's going to remind me of what I went through.
So we talked about kind of like what the last straw was for you. And I know you have pictures and things like that to show us. When you exited, was it a physical altercation type of thing, or was it a I'm tired type of thing?
It was a physical thing. Like, we literally had reconciled probably like 8 months before that. And I was on my own and I was living by myself because I was kind of skeptical about it. And as long as I was on my own, he was Prince Charming. And it was like, we need to be back in the same household type thing. And I was scared. But then again, too, I'm like, okay, well, he's been showing me. But one thing that I did tell him was, that's not happening again. So the moment that it happens, I'm gone for good. But you know how many times I had said that?
Right.
You know how many times I had told him that? So I went in, you know, not blinded. I mean, I was not naive. I was not in denial. But it happened. I want to say we moved back together in July. By October, I was gone because he had done something physical. But I meant that when I said it was never going to happen again. And I guess I just had to show him that I was serious.
Right. So that's a lot. I want to move to some of the solutions that women can have.
Yes.
But before we get to that, I'm going to play a brief commercial. So just hold tight, guys. We'll be right back.
Who is it?
Do you have a story to tell me? Email me or inbox me. My email is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I'll answer for sure.
Bring some weed, I got a story to tell.
Yo, man, y'all niggas ain't gonna believe what the fuck happened to me. Remember that bitch I left the club with, man?
Yeah.
Yo, sticky, yo. I'm up in this bitch crib, this bitch fuck with one of them old Nick ass niggas and shit.
No doubt. Yo, you got that dust, baby? Yeah, today was a good day for you, baby. All right.
And we are back. We're talking serious today. I'm a little shooketh because I can really relate to bits and pieces of your story, you know. And you know, you kind of look back and you ask yourself, like, did I really accept this? Did I really deal with this?
Yes.
But then again, I'm always a glass half full type of girl. So it's like I'm here today, I'm living another day. And so that's why I like to help. I love to give. So what are some tips that you can give women? We talked about red flags, but what are some things that someone who feels like their back is up against the wall, what are some things you would suggest to them?
So one thing I have learned, you know, like we spoke about as far as like us being Black people, is Black people are so unaware of mental health and the resources and therapy. Like, we just do not believe in that. But people will be surprised how far that will get you. And there are resources out here, whether you're in Texas, whatever state you're in, there are resources. So one thing that helps me that I had to learn going through the process of dealing with, you know, like cases and, you know, all of that is there's a program called the Crime Victims Compensation Act. It will help you not only relocate when you have to leave abruptly, it will help you with any legal issues that you have, any issues with therapy if you have to. It's a financial assistance. Utilize it. It's there for us for free. Like, it's a part of the Attorney General. It's put there. So don't ever feel like you stuck. Because I've talked to people, I'm actually in the medical field. So I've talked to people before and I've been able to be that resource to people, to tell people, you don't have to stay there, but I don't have anywhere else to go. Like, this person is you do. Like, there's resources out there that will help you. So never feel like you're stuck based on financial gain. One thing that people also don't understand that comes with domestic violence is you get PTSD. Like, you have PTSD. And
in multiple ways.
And one thing that, you know, you hear, you need to go to counseling. Like, I went to counseling for a year and I'm like, I'm not getting anything from this. Like, I didn't feel like it was helping in any way. But then I also found out dealing with PTSD is a special type of therapy that you have to get. And it's called trauma cognitive based therapy. And everybody's not going to tell you that. So people think when they hear women's shelters, it's for homeless people. It's for battered women. It's not. They have resources within that shelter that helps you. So I've actually been able to get my therapy for my PTSD through that program for free. I don't have to use my insurance. I have insurance from work. I don't have to use my insurance. Knowing that my abuser and being in fear of my children being safe with him, we had joint custody, which means half and half. I was able to get into this program and get an attorney for free. And the first thing that the attorney did was went to court and got a temporary protective order for us. And all of this is for free. These are resources out there that you can get with no money out of your pocket if you want to be serious about it. So I always tell people, I like to give people my IG. Reach out to me. You know, I'm on YouTube, you see me, in chats, you see me, in all of this, but I'm still a normal person. So,
and all her information will be in the description. So make sure that you guys check that description. Absolutely.
Yes. So even if you just need to ask a question about how I got away, whatever questions that you have, I'm here to share my story, to empower and to help everybody else. Another thing that I like to tell people is regardless of if your children are being physically abused or not, if they're witnessing it, I can guarantee you they're affected just as much as you are. Both of my children have been diagnosed with PTSD based on what they saw me going through. So there's also programs out there from them. It's called the Children's Advocacy Centers. Every state has them. Again, free therapy for your children. Because one thing that I found is my abuser, he knew when it came to my kids, because I told my story, my kids are my miracles. I don't play about my kids. And that's one thing everybody knows is I don't play about my kids. So he knew, I'm a grown woman. You can put your hands on me all you want. I can defend myself. But them babies can't. So even with us going through what we was going through, I found out that behind the scenes, when I wasn't around, he was doing the same thing to the kids. And my poor kids couldn't even recognize that it was abuse because they had seen it their whole, like you don't know how mad I was to find out that my kids thought abuse was normal. Like, how disgusting is that?
I was just gonna say, it can affect kids in multiple ways, just like it can affect grown people in multiple ways. Like you said, I can relate to what you said. If a guy reminded me of a previous, it would be red flags. But with children, they can either be afraid of that, think it's normal, or they can become that.
Yep. And I have a son.
Yeah.
And right now, my son is so sweet and he's such a, you know what I'm saying? And I was just so fearful that he was going to get comfortable with that and he was going to turn into his dad. Because who does a young man idolize if they don't idolize their dad?
And who do little girls love?
Exactly.
These girls.
Exactly. Exactly. And my daughter was like that. Like, she was like, her daddy was her everything, because that's one thing that he did put that facade on, was I protect my baby girl. Nobody can do anything to her, although on the back end he was doing it. So she kind of had to deal with that too, until the situation happened where it was serious and she felt, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Like, but she felt like her life was in danger. And then now it's a whole different story. So now she's dealing with, if I can't trust my daddy, how can I trust anybody?
And that's so sad to hear.
It's extremely sad.
And it's so crazy how diabolical abusers and manipulators are, because bad things don't look bad. People always ask the question. This is what I want to say to the people who are not going through this situation, okay? Because this conversation is for everybody.
It is.
I want to say to the people who are not going through it, the worst question to ask is, didn't you know? Didn't you see? If it looked like some bullshit, do you really think I would be dealing with it?
Exactly.
Like, come on.
And even now, going through what we're going through now and me taking the steps, people look at it like, well, she was there for 15 years. It couldn't have been that bad. You know what I'm saying? So now we to the point where they see he got charges for his daughter. Now it's like a red flag, like, oh, well, maybe she wasn't. And even when I talk to like the legal system and all of that, and going through the situation with my daughter, they ask us, do you feel like we failed y'all? And I was like, absolutely. Because if y'all would have took it serious when he was doing it to me, instead of that little slap on the hand and letting him go, it wouldn't have led to what happened to her. So I absolutely feel like y'all failed me. And there's still people to this day that know him on a level that I know him differently, and they don't believe it. You got people backing this man up, paying his legal fees. We had a whole police officer come and testify in our custody case, lied his ass off, because he don't know who this man is in real life, because they don't understand manipulators manipulate. They become professionals at that. So and that's why I tell people, don't attack the survivors, don't attack the victims. Open your eyes to see who wants to admit something like that.
Right.
Who wants to come out and have to say something like that? You think we want to come out and have to admit that we were abused or that we've had to go through this? Open your eyes.
Or that we accepted it, because
exactly.
My thing for me was, And I want to say, I know a lot of people in our community feel how I felt. Like, I don't mess with the police. I'm not telling them nothing.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna do that to him. I love him. You know what I'm saying? But y'all, like, this is serious.
It
I
is.
just did a story on the young lady that was a roller skater,
Yes.
burnt, left.
Yep.
I just seen another story, 29-year-old influencer, beautiful girl, 29 years old. Like, we don't want to tell you to not go to the authorities because you can seek help and you need to go seek help when you can. But what we are saying, and that is imperative to do, is to care about yourself.
Absolutely.
Because the majority of law enforcement don't care. They're
They
going to
don't.
write up a little report and they're going to go on about their business.
Yep.
Because they don't care if they haven't seen anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
How many
And-
shows and movies do we watch on people who have called and called and called and called and called, and they're like, well, ma'am, he's not doing anything that we can see. I can't do anything. And then they die.
Yep. And absolutely, like I said, many times they gave him a slap on the hand. And that's what I tell them. It's disgusting that it took him doing this to a kid for y'all to take it serious. But it's just so many things that I've learned. Like, for instance, when we went through what we went through with my kid, they were like, one thing that we know is there's certain forms of abuse that are repetitive. Like, he told me, okay, strangulation is something that they take extremely serious because it's personal. And it takes a while. So you're looking that person in the face and you're strangling them. And so he told me, statistically, if they do it once, they're gonna do it again. And the crazy thing is, dealing with what we're dealing with and all the legal issues that he's dealing with now, I wouldn't say probably a month ago, I started getting tagged on Facebook by some random woman. I don't know this woman from the man on the moon. I'm an extremely private person. I tell my story when I feel it's necessary, but it's not something that I just go put out and just have, all out there. I started getting contacted by this lady who was like, hey, y'all have her reach out to me. I can help her with her case. I'm like, my case? Nobody knows about my cases. So it was kind of like a risk. So I reach out to her. I'm like, who are you? He done attacked another lady and strangled her. And as soon as I told the DA about that, he's like, what did I tell you? Did I not tell you that that was something that if you do it once, you'll do it again?
Well, I feel like just about anything is like that. You know what I'm saying? Because we just spoke on, once you go through something, and we don't realize it in the moment, but once you do, a man does, and women too, because gender has nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Once somebody does something to you, you forgive them, usually the next offense is worse.
Yep.
So
Yep, because they look at that as offense.
They kill me with the statistics because the statistics that's gonna help us, y'all don't pay attention to.
Exactly. It took all of this. You know what I'm saying? And then one thing that I want to tell people is lean on your family. Like, I know it's probably embarrassing, but one thing I can say is I hid it from my family. And now I'm to the point where even to this day, having conversations with my parents, like my poor parents, I feel so bad for them because they struggling. And now they're dealing with their own issues because they looking at me like, we didn't raise you like this. Like, what were you thinking? And I have to talk to them and go through it. And even now with me telling my story, I'll be triggered on something. And then I'll start talking about it. And then I look at my mom and she's just looking at me like, you didn't know that, right? Like, they had no clue. It was as bad as it was because I hid it from them for years. So you're not only affecting yourself, you're not only affecting your children, you're affecting your family too. Because now my parents are sitting here thinking like, my baby been going through this for all these years. And I had no idea I couldn't be there to protect her. I'm grown, but I'm still that kid.
Yeah.
They weren't there to protect me. They weren't there to guide me through it. None of that because they had no idea what happened. I hid it very well. Very, very well.
Well, I appreciate you coming to tell your story because I think it's really, really important, because there's countless women who are no longer here to tell their story anymore.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And just know you can walk out tomorrow. If my story...
You can walk out now.
Yes, if my story empowered you, anything that I said today gave you the encouragement to walk away, do it now, because tomorrow is not promised to anybody. And the way that the mindset of these abusers are thinking, they don't care. Like, they don't care. So
they don't care about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got to start there. The reason why they can't love you and don't love you is because they don't love themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And something happened to them, something went on to them. Because like I said, with them, found out that my abuser had mommy and daddy issues. So it was that frustration, they take it out on us because they dealing with their own issues and they don't know how to deal with them without taking it out on somebody else.
And just before we get out of here, I just want to say, you know, you spoke on how fast the relationship moved.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to urge people, slow down. I say that all the time over here. We have to slow down. You know, you see people back in the day, it was a process.
Yes.
Before you even got to the dating phase of a relationship. You know what I'm saying? There were steps that you took. And nowadays, it's just, you see somebody, oh, they look good. That's about to be wifey. Oh, that's about to be my man. You don't know nothing about them, their history, their habits, nothing.
Yep.
You lose nothing by taking your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell people, like, one thing that they told me was the ratio from men to women have changed so much that there's more women than there are men. So don't let that encourage you. Like, you deserve, us as women, we deserve so much. Like I tell people all the time, I want that old thing back. Like, I want that 80s R&B love. You know, like, I want that 80s R&B love. And I'm to the point now where, you know, I don't have no more time. I wasted 15 years of my life. So if you can't get it,
no, I gotta stop you right there. I gotta stop you right there. Because you didn't waste them. You learned some valuable lessons.
I did.
You learned some valuable lessons. You had your blessings, your kids, you know, and you blessed to now talk about it. So your life definitely was not wasted.
Absolutely. And I don't feel like I would be as strong as I am today if I didn't experience what I experienced.
Yeah.
So, yes.
For sure. So you guys love each other more.
Absolutely.
Before you love each other more, please find out how to love yourself more.
Absolutely.
And the last thing I want to say, I know I said we was getting out here, but I got to say one more thing. Do not be with somebody who feels like you complete them.
Oh, yes.
You have to be complete on your own first.
Absolutely.
Y'all are supposed to be two complete people coming together to become one.
Absolutely.
Half people do not make a whole person.
No.
So
no, not at all.
Love each other more, y'all. And we out of here.
Thank you, guys.
TheeEnicole. You can always call me E, but don't never call me Nicole. Your presence is appreciated. Please be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe. It's always a vibe. In my galaxy.
Frame from Ready to Love, and you are watching my girl, TheeEnicole.
Tasha Lyons telling you to tune into TheeEnicole.
This is Samson from Ready to Love, and you're tuned into TheeEnicole.
It's Winter from Love and Marriage DC, and you're tuned in to TheeEnicole.
Make sure you guys subscribe to TheeEnicole. She is amazing. Click that button, subscribe, and you are going to enjoy all the information that she's going to share.
So come on over and tune in. Okay.